The ghosts in the South are different from other ghosts. They're just a little bit closer to the living, just a little more noticeable, and just a little bit more up in your business. And if you're looking for ways to bring echoes of the South into your spooky practice, the decks by Stacey Williams-Ng may be just the right gateway to peruse. Not only do her cards connect in a visceral way with the history of the South, but she's used them to talk to spirits herself. And she's here to tell you all about how you can do the same. Today on Homespun Haints. Hello, Hainted Loves. Welcome to Homespun Haints. I'm Becky.
I'm Diana.
Today on the show, we are so thrilled to bring on Stacey, a designer of tarot and oracle cards.
Ooh, that's exciting.
She is the one responsible not just for the Southern Gothic oracle deck, but also she created her own publishing company. We're going to hear all about it. She's an amazing lady. You're going to love talking to her because she has some spooky stories, as you can imagine, and Southern Gothic to the core, which really just speaks to our hearts.
Of course. As Southern Goths ourselves.
Do you consider yourself a Southern Goth, Diana?
So, you keep saying that Oklahoma is the Midwest, and you're not wrong about that. Geographically, it's kind of the Midwest. Culturally, most of the culture that you would associate with, like, Western type culture, that's not the culture that was already here when it became a state, of course, but the
colonization culture.
Yeah, colonized culture came from the Alabama area.
Okay. But you know what this means, right? Diana is a Southerner. Diana is a Southerner. Diana is a Southerner. What do you think of that? Boom!
Yeah. It's fair.
You heard it here first, folks. Diana.
Becky.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Making it official today.
Well, I mean, I may as well embrace it. Southern culture within the Midwest.
We're going to work on that accent next.
My Michigan, Oklahoma, Bronx accent.
Yeah, we're going to get some twang in there. Well, anyway, it's a little bit after Halloween now, but I was going to take my son to see a haunted house, his very first haunted house. And you know how they all are. They're like, not recommended for children under 13.
Do you have heart problems?
Yes, not
seizures,
allowed.
Migraines, pregnancy.
If you're pregnant, do not come in. Yeah, exactly. So they had that all over the side. Warning, not recommended. And I was like, hey, bud, you still want to go? He's like, yeah, I do. We went to the Folklore Haunted House up in Ackworth, Georgia. So not too far away. I was really just looking for what was closest. We actually got there early. So because it was a Saturday night, we tried to get there before things really got long. As it was, we still had to wait an hour to get into the first one. But yeah, it was good though. It was worth it. Really enjoyed it. There were 2 haunted houses on this particular property. So we went in the first one. It was great. Scary. He loved it. He ate up every moment. He was like, I bet there's going to be a jump scare over there. I bet there's going to be a jump scare over there. Mom, I think that's an actor. Haunted houses, you expect the same things. You expect the actors. You expect the jump scares. You expect the weirdos in line. It's fog.
Strobes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
noises.
Weird rubber things that you have to push through. Hooks with chunks of fake meat hanging from them.
Lots of opportunities to catch lice.
Don't say that. All right. Well, what's fun about a haunted house is the unexpected thing. When things go wrong. So this is actually really, really amusing. We go to the second haunted house, and again, long lines. And we're waiting in this line, and we're behind this group of 6 teenagers. 6 teenagers that have never been to a haunted house before.
Oh.
And it's 3 guys and they're 3 girls, so 3 couples, basically. The guys were just, you could tell they were just young dicks. Like, the girls keep asking him to take a photo of them, and they keep, like, messing it up deliberately. Like, one girl's even got her hairbrush, and she keeps brushing her hair. She's like, take a photo! And, like, they're, like, doing their and stuff in front of the camera, and the guy's, like, messing up the photo or doing something stupid or taking a photo of his ass, and he's like, oh! You know, just, like, stupid teenager shit. I'm watching this whole thing going, okay, well, I remember being that age.
It happens to the best of us.
Right. And of course, there's a lot of swear words coming out of these kids' mouths. And my son is just like, don't hear it. Don't hear it. An actor came up behind us. We were, like I said, we were waiting in line. So my son started playing the New York Times Wordle, because that's one of his favorite things to do. He has to do it every day.
Same.
So he's doing that. And an actor comes up behind him. I see like this, like, makeup corpse-like finger sticking over my shoulder, like pointing at my phone, and he turns around, he's like, oh, he, you know, my son is at the actor. The actor comes up behind one of these kids and does something similar, and this kid just freaks out and starts threatening the guy. He's like, you better not be doing that. You better not be doing that to me. I'll kick your ass. I'll kick your ass. The guy's like, okay. And I think he went and notified security. Like, this is somebody to keep an eye on. Like, this poor kid, he was so scared. And they keep getting closer, and they keep trying to get out of line, and the girls keep grabbing him and be like, no, you're going to stay. You're going to stay. The guys that threatened the actor, he turns around to me, and he's like, have you all been in this before? And I'm like, no. He's like, are you afraid? Are you afraid? And I was such a dick back to him. I was like, look, man, I got my 11-year-old here with me, and he's fine.
Nicely done.
So the guy just ignores me. He turns back around again. They finally get up to the front, and they go in. You know those machines that make the popping sounds like gunshots or a car backfiring? Pop, 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 pop. So they have one of those going. And I can see the shadows of these kids in there, like against the light that's coming from one of these machines, and they're jumping up and down and screaming. They're screaming, bloody hell. One of them runs back out screaming. And she's just like, and then her friend's like, you gotta get back in here. She's like, ah, she's like so freaked out. She runs back in there. Well, it got worse. So apparently they were too terrified to go forward. And they had to call. So the guy taking tickets, like, he goes in and tries to coax them to go forward. They won't. So they have to bring in backup. More people are coming in, trying to get these kids to, like, go through the first room. They're holding everybody up.
So they tell you it's your job to push them forward.
Right? Like, I was like, I'm not, no, clearly, I don't want to. This guy threatened an actor, right?
Right?
And
that's what you're paying for, dude. Calm down.
I know. I mean, the tickets were like $40 a piece. Like, why are you messing around here? They're still in there screaming. More people are going in. They're just freaking out. And like, everything stopped up because they won't move. There goes Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Speaking of scary things.
Continue.
So he's, yeah, finally, I think they scooched him out of an emergency exit or something. They were just like, go away. Like, it was a good 10 minutes. Away. they were trying to coax these kids to go through the room. They would not move. Like, they...
No, you may not have your money back.
No, well, it says that, you can't have your money back if you're too afraid to go in.
At this point, you've been enough trouble that you owe us double your entry fee.
Right? So I'm expecting this to be phenomenal, right? It just scared the socks out of these 6 teenagers who couldn't even get through the first room. We walk in, my son and I walk in, and it was literally just a room. It was just a room with that popping machine. And then an actor dressed like a clown in the corner. And
you're afraid of clowns.
I am. Like, and he saw me and he was just like, shh. And he was sneaking back to his position. Oh. I think he just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to freak out. And he's like, please go on. He's like totally breaking character. He's like, just move on. I'll scare the next group.
Get everything rolling again.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of funny, but I was like, what? I still don't know what they were afraid of.
Maybe the clown ran out at them in a scary way.
Maybe, but it's actors. And these weren't 3-year-olds.
Even your 11-year-old knew it was an actor.
Yeah, I know. It's again, I'm like, I came home and told my husband, and he was like, well, that's why they have the warning on the website.
It's not for your 11-year-old. It's for the teenagers.
When you were a teenager, you weren't scared of anything, right?
Not by the time I was a teenager. I was very, very scared. The first haunted house I went in was Phantasmagoria, which was one of those fun house haunted houses. But it was kind of like at the fair, except we had a permanent fair in our neighborhood called Bell's Amusement Park at the time. And we went on the Phantasmagoria ride. My friend Kristen's mom made us ride it. We were 8 and it's one where, it's a cart and it goes around on a track. And the whole time we were doing this.
Yeah.
Not looking, not listening, trying to block all of our flush windows as best we could to try and just keep this horrible assault on our features out. No, I by the time I was 13, I had done that ride a billion times and it was not scary at all. It was the scariest part was there was a part where it was pitch darkness and you couldn't see anything. That was the scariest part. But once you could see things.
I know. Yeah, if you can see. Well, there were some places in these houses that I thought was pretty ingenious. They would like flash the strobe lights at you so your eyes would no longer be adjusted, and then you go around a corner, it'd be all black and stuff.
So they can get you back into pitch darkness before your eyes adjust. They can scare you again.
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty smart. Yeah,
that is clever.
So if you like scary things, like haunted houses, you're going to love talking to Stacey. She's going to come here in just a second. But before we bring her on, as always, we want to mention our Patreon and give a shout out to our newest patron. Big shout out to Kat for joining our Patreon. Thank you so much. Kat joined at a very luxurious tier, so she's going to be getting a lot of goodies. Thank you, Kat. We live for our patrons.
And there is still time to join at the higher tiers and get your special limited edition handmade patron gift. So do check that out. If you're already a patron, now would be the time to switch it up. And if you're not already it comes between Samhain and Yule.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
If you're already a patron, check out those upper tiers. Now would be the time to switch over if you want to get a gift this year. And if you're not already a patron, hopefully you really do like scary things because we've got this commercial.
Oh man, I had a rough day.
What happened, honey?
I was out with the guys and they said I wasn't spooky enough.
Oh, honey, how could they say that to you? You're hella spooky.
You think so?
Of course. After all, you came up with the ectoplasm being ghost jizz theory, and you've been scratched by more horny ghosts than anyone else I know.
Well, I suppose you're right.
But if you're really worried about it, I have just the thing.
Oh, wow! A Spooky AF t-shirt?
That's right. Our Spooky AF line comes in shirt, sweatshirt, pillow, and even a high-quality mug.
Man, those are super awesome, especially for something with profanity on it.
What's even better, all these items were hand-lettered exclusively for Homespun Hates by world-renowned calligrapher Nikki Malik.
Holy ghostly cannoli, that's amazing.
From now on, whenever you brandish your Spooky AF gear, no one will accuse you of being boring.
Yeah, I'm Spooky AF.
Visit homespunhates.com for all Spooky AF merchandise.
Today on the show, we are thrilled to bring on Stacey Williams-Ng. You may have seen her work. She is the very, very popular creator of the Southern Gothic Oracle, which I have here. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Stacey at Mystic South this year in Atlanta, and I just want to show off some of these cards. I got the Haunts expansion pack, and these cards are just absolutely gorgeous. But this is not the only thing that Stacey has done. Not only has she produced several decks at this point, she also has founded her own studio, which publishes these decks. So she's very, very multidimensional. And of course, as you can imagine, she's got some ghost stories. We're so excited to have her today. Thank you, Stacey, for being here with us.
Welcome.
Thank you so much, Becky. I'm so excited to be here.
I know that you have a background in art. How did you end up making the Southern Gothic Oracle? Because that is your first deck, correct?
It was. This was my pandemic project. So my background is in graphic design, and I even have a few years of my career in children's book publishing. So I'm not new to publishing, and I'm certainly not new to graphic design. I've been doing that since, way before Canva, children. I lived in Milwaukee, so I was a displaced Southerner. If you've ever met one of us, we are the worst. We're like religious convicts. Maybe that's good, actually. I might use that. I meant converts, but I think I like convicts better, so we're going to stick with it. But we're like converts, right? It's like I ran away from the South, but then the minute I'm away from it, I'm longing for it, and I'm bragging about how much cooler it is than this stupid place. It's like, oh, this would never happen in Memphis. Everyone's like, why did you leave then? That had been my personality for quite some time, like years. And I'm not bragging, it's just a fact. So I had been reading Southern Gothic novels. Like I would get my fix in other ways, right? I'm from, of course, the Mississippi Delta. So blues music was something I grew up with. So I would be listening to Bessie Smith, or I would be reading William Faulkner or Toni Morrison or what have you. And that's how I was like feeding my brain with the culture that I was missing. And so that was like my personal interest. That was the spot I headed to in any bookstore. And fast forward, pandemic, and I'm an only child, and my mother is elderly, and she is widowed, and she lives alone. And I was seeing all this footage about, old people being by themselves. And my husband and I just looked at each other, and we were like, let's move back to Memphis. Let's do it. Because I was not going to be one of those people whose mother was dying over an iPad. Like I was going to have FaceTime. Yeah. I just couldn't do it, y'all. I couldn't. And I grieve for the people who had to do that. So that was my reason for moving down to Memphis purportedly. But anyway, Betty's fine. Betty didn't die. Betty never got COVID. It's cool. But what happened was it brought me home. And having done all of that and settled in here again has just been so cathartic. I can't even tell you. And I've always had an interest in tarot and oracle, right? But I had never illustrated my own. So I thought it's time. And I Googled Southern Gothic Tarot because I thought I'll buy one. There's got to be one, right? Nothing. I mean, nothing. And I tried a bunch of variations on that search term, anything. Tennessee Tarot, rock and roll tarot, anything. Like, what do you got? Nothing. And I decided, like, in the moment, it took me no time to just whip out some paper and start making notes. Like, I'm doing this. This has to be in the world. How is this not in the world?
Nice.
So that's how it all happened. Everything came into that moment, and it was just like, I know exactly what my assignment is.
Perfect.
So glad that you put it into the world. It is absolutely gorgeous. Every time I do a reading with your cards, I get distracted by how beautiful the artwork is. It's just...
Oh, thank you. They're acrylic paintings. I painted them all on canvas.
I was wondering how you did that. They're gorgeous. Anybody who's ever tried to make a deck or has made a deck knows it's an incredible amount of work. It is so much work. And how many cards are in the Oracle deck?
Well, it depends on which one you bought, because it's 45 in the classic deck and it's 45 in the new one you just bought. But there was a minute there that I had a special cornbread edition that sold out. Yeah, and there was a cornbread card. So some people listening have 46 cards because they got the cornbread edition.
I love it.
Nice.
I think what I love so much about your artwork and what you've created is that there is something that is really hard to put your finger on about Southern Gothic culture, what that means. Just that, like, humidity drenched Spanish moss, like the guitar playing in the cemetery. It's hard to describe, but there's just this feeling that comes with it.
Mm-hmm. And that feeling is violence and trauma.
Unfortunately, yes.
It is. That's it. It's interesting. So I did even though I've been a reader of it for years, I did gobs of reading and research about what does that genre mean? What does that term even mean? Mm-hmm. And one of the favorite things I found, which I'm going to misquote because I'm going from memory, but it was the idea that there's a thin veneer of civility covering up intense violence.
Yeah.
Like unspeakable violence. And it just spoke to me immediately. It makes me think of, like Southern mansions where everything's just so, and it's just so pretty and we're all so happy here, and then slavery and then child abuse and then all that kind of stuff. So.
Right.
Yeah. That's the South. It's a crime scene.
But I think there's also some magic.
Yes.
That, for better or for worse, comes out of that juxtaposition.
Absolutely. I think that's human nature. That's what's so interesting. And that's what I tried to focus on was I wasn't going to shy away from the violence. I wasn't going to shy away from issues of racism and generational trauma. And that's woven in there. But I also wanted to show joy, like magnolias and song and so on, because that's what we've done. Living in a place that was fomenting with all this conflict is people found a way to find joy and find hope. So that's what I'm celebrating really in the deck.
Is that resilience? Yeah.
Again, I think it really, really comes through. So you founded your own publishing studio.
Yes.
La Panthère. How did that happen?
Well, I didn't really do it to get my own deck out there because I used Kickstarter and I had a tremendous success with the Kickstarter. It blew my mind. I thought 7 people would buy this deck. You have a pull down menu where you can choose how long the campaign should go for. And I chose the longest one because I was like, I'll get like $1 a day. There's no way I'm going to make this money. And then it got funded in like a day and a half. I couldn't believe it.
What?
Wow.
Yes. And the second one I did got funded in 3 hours flat.
Whoa, dude.
Guys, no one was more surprised than me. Do you understand?
That's fantastic. So there was a need.
But so those were out there and they were doing, and then I just put them up on their own website. It was called the Southern Gothic Oracle.com. I mean, I just was selling only that. And then when I did the Botanic deck, which is about plants, then that was selling kind of right with it. And since they matched, I didn't change the website. But then I had, other artists coming to me to say, help me do that. How'd you do that? I'm afraid of using Kickstarter. I'm afraid I'm not good at computers or the printing part. That's where, having been in children's publishing and having lived in Asia. So I was a graphic designer living in Singapore. So I knew, printing houses and stuff like that years ago, but still it doesn't, even though names had changed, I kind of still knew how to navigate that business. So the printing part was not a challenge for me. And I think that was what made it different for me than maybe some other creators, because I had this business background in addition to being, a spooky witch who can paint. That was just a lucky combo of skills there. And that's why I thought, I'd like to do this, not just to publish my own decks and give us a platform, but to avoid going to big publishers, because I have feelings about big publishers and they're not good ones.
Well, you have experience, so you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were telling us before we hit record that the creation of one of these decks actually led you to connect with some of your ancestors.
It did.
Tell us about that.
Well, Southern Gothic Oracle, I had always imagined, because this is how I would have approached it. When I was first Googling that I wanted a deck like this, right? It was because I have feelings about the South. It's because I, the card reader, would relate to this culture because I'm from here, right? I mean, that's obvious, right? Well, what I didn't think about was someone commented on my social media at some point, and I came to know this someone. Her name is Nancy, but she was a stranger at the time. And she commented that these cultural decks are such a wonderful, I forget how she put it, but the thought of it was these cultural and regional decks are so helpful because imagine if your ancestors didn't know tarot. Most of ours don't. Huh. And my whole brain just went, like when I think of my old Southern farming ancestors and I'm supposed to be communicating with them with like royal suits of the tarot, I can just picture them in the afterlife going, I don't know what she's doing. I don't know what she wants me to say. What's that supposed to mean? Like, I could imagine it.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
It makes so much sense.
Oh, that's funny.
And then I looked her up, and she, Nancy Hendrickson, is an author, and she has written 2 books. One is called Ancestral Tarot, and she teaches people how to use the tarot with ancestral divination. And then she has another one called Ancestral Grimoire. So this is like totally her lane, right? Mm-hmm. And I bought the book like lickety split. And in Ancestral Tarot, she talks about, she didn't know my deck yet, but she actually does give readers the suggestion of like, if you have Mexican ancestry, you might consider the Santa Muerte deck and things like that, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, I've unwittingly fallen upon this tool that will really help people because, those of you who aren't familiar with the cards, oracle cards are real straightforward. I mean, there literally is a possum card. There's no King of Cups. There's nothing like that. The tarot has these very specific cards like the Emperor and the King of Cups. But oracle cards are just cards with any kind of art on them and any kind of theme. And mine is Southern. So you get a horseshoe, and I think you all know what a horseshoe would mean. That's an easy one. A pine cone. And shoes and a raccoon. And then there's a keyword on there to tell you like symbolically what that might mean to you today. And so, anybody's ancestor could use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
good point.
So that's what got me into it. That got me thinking I would like to practice that because I am interested in my own ancestry.
When you were doing this, did you have some insights? Did you actually connect with your ancestors? Are there stories there that you'd like to tell?
Well, there's one I'd love to tell you actually, and I wasn't even using my own cards.
Oh.
So here's what happened. So this goes back to Nancy Hendrickson. She kept commenting on my post. She just kind of became a fan, and I was becoming a fan of hers. Uh-huh. And so I'm like super fangirling that this woman in California who's published all these books and who lots of people follow is following me. The next thing I know, in 2022, I was sent an email by her editor at Red Wheel Wiser Books saying, we'd like you to review Nancy's next book.
Ooh.
And I was like, me? I was so excited. They wanted me to write like a blurb to go in the front of the book. I was like, my name carries 0 weight, right? She was like, Nancy wants you. I was like, oh my God. I felt like such an imposter because like you, Becky, I was kind of like, well, I've tried to connect with my ancestors, but like, it's not something I do well. I always have been good at reading tarot and understanding that spirits are talking to me, but I never could sort of put a finger on, it's Uncle Bob. In my head, that's what I thought doing this successfully was like. And so I thought, well, I don't know if I can review her book, golly, right? But they insisted. So I was like, cool. So here we go. So I take the manuscript of this book. It's on my laptop and I go on a business trip to St. Louis. And I'm in the hotel room and I thought, I'm away from home. I'm in a neutral environment. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read through this and maybe even try some stuff. Right. So I had a tarot deck with me and I had her original book, Ancestral Tarot. And then I had this and I set it all out like I was a student. It's like notebooks, pens, I'm ready to go. I've got my space, doors locked, I'm alone, nobody can bother me. I already know a little bit about my Italian ancestors. I have Italian ancestors that immigrated to Memphis in the 1920s. And that's a branch of my family that I'm really interested in. So I have already been reading about them and I'm interested in them. And I had brought a family tree because in her method, you use a family tree or a list of your relatives, however you want to do it, and a pendulum to sort of get the pendulum to point to one ancestor or another. I take all this stuff out. I light a candle. I got the room. I got everything, like the mood is set. I've meditated. I've centered. And I start the first exercise and I lay out the cards according to the spread that's in the book. What you're supposed to be doing in this exercise is asking for a volunteer. You're not supposed to go and try and call Uncle Bob. Okay. Uncle Bob might have gone to another realm and Uncle Bob shouldn't have to like reassemble himself to come and answer your question just because you're in a hotel room in St. Louis. It's not fair to Uncle Bob. Okay. So basically she talks about how it's important to say there's probably an ancestor that loves you and watches you and wants to be involved with you. Find out who they are. And that's how she begins the process. So I was totally riveted by this idea. And I lay out the cards and I get the Queen of Cups. And instead of trying to interpret it on my own, I was completely in student mode. I read what, Nancy had written about that. Like in her book, what does she talk about the Queen of Cups being like that? And it was about a nurturing mother type. Maybe a mother who enjoyed cooking, a mother that you felt that you could relate to. Obviously, it's a feminine spirit. It's probably from, the maternal line even. So she's giving me all these cues that I can read into, right? So I was like, okay, so it's a woman. It's, maybe one of my grandmother's, great-grandmother's, great-great-grandmother's. Gosh, I hope so. It all kept pointing to my great-grandmother, Angela, who I never met. And I'm totally fascinated with her. She's the one who came over. She was the the one who came over here from Italy as a teenage girl and got married off to another Italian immigrant. And I'm just totally riveted by her story. So I get Angela in all the little tests that I was doing. The pendulum went to Angela. It went crazy, actually, y'all. The pendulum was like over Angela. And then the Queen of Cups. And then there was something else. And there were other cards I turned over. It's been a couple of years now. But everything was like Angela, Angela, Angela. And finally I was like, you know what? Okay. My imagination is getting carried away. Like, I want it to be Angela. So clearly I'm interpreting everything as Angela. This is stupid. Like, I'm just going to turn everything off. Like, forget all this. Like, it's getting way too spooky, especially when, like, I would say Angela and the candle would go, like the candle flame would flicker. And I was like, shut the front. Anyway, and then with the pendulum, which I'm not familiar with pendulums. I don't use them much. And I kept thinking it was too wiggly. And then it finally calmed down. And then I slowly like brought it over the names. And then it slowly went over Angela and it went, and I wasn't doing it. It was like, okay, this is way too spooky. And I don't like it anymore. Cause now I'm thinking I'm making it all up. So I slammed the book shut. I turned everything off. I'm like, blow out the candle, turn on the lights, fluorescent lights in the hotel room. We're fine. Everything's fine. No great grandmothers in the room. Right. And then I go to switch on the hotel TV because I'm ready to just like zone out and watch some TV. Turn on the hotel room TV. And it's a documentary on the town in Italy that Angela immigrated from.
Dude.
Do you understand me? It was not like welcome to Hilton. You know what I mean? Usually you turn on the TV and it says welcome to this hotel. And then like it says like, here's how you navigate channels. No, ma'am. I opened it. I turned it on and it was on a show that was a travel documentary specifically about her town in Alessandria, Italy.
Oh, wow.
It's not even like a popular town. This is a tiny, small town. Val Madonna, Italy. That's extremely specific. My knees just about buckled. It was crazy. Yeah.
That's
and
amazing.
Lots has happened with Angela since then. I mean, Angela dogs me. Angela is everywhere I go. I have had an Ancestry.com membership. I actually did a TikTok video about this. I've had an Ancestry.com membership for like a long, long time, more than 10 years. And I got an alert on my phone from Ancestry, the app, which has been installed forever. And I guess I have alerts turned on, but I've never gotten an alert from Ancestry.com because does it ever have new news? No.
Yeah. No.
Okay. So anyway, I get an alert from Ancestry and it said, today is your great grandmother Angela's birthday.
Whoa.
Imagine if that app sent you that for every ancestor you had loaded into your, you know what I mean? Like if you were getting birthday announcements for every ancestor, it would be like daily. It would be like, this is your triple great grandfather's. No, it doesn't do that, y'all.
It just randomly singled out Angela. Wow.
And it said, today is your great grandmother Angela's birthday. And I was like, what the fuck?
So did you wish her a happy birthday?
I did. I mean, I have a picture of her now on my altar. And it's always there. And I bring her little glasses of wine. And so I was like, well, happy birthday. And I lit her a candle and all that stuff. She's my buddy now.
Have you had other interactions with her where you know that she's looking out for you or there's messages that she wants to send to you?
Yes. In fact, I think it's a lot more subtle now because she's proven to me that she's here and that it really is her. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when I just get a feeling and it feels almost like a guardian angel situation, I always just assume it's her. She hasn't done a lot more that is super specific like that, where she's like, it's me. There's not always that. I did go to a past life regression session. Have y'all ever done that? Yes. Isn't Spooky. It the best? Oh, God. I just did that this year. When I was in the hypnotized state, I found myself on a boat like an Italian immigrant. I could see my dress. I could see that my hands were cold, and I was wishing I had my gloves because I was out on the ship's prow. What is it called? I don't know. The deck,
prow, whatever. Deck, yeah.
But I'm out in the open in my warm clothes, but my hands were bare. And even in the hypnotized state, I could think, wow, my hands are so cold. So I started looking around for other passengers because the person who was leading me through the hypnotherapy, she said, is there anyone you recognize on the boat? And I look around and I saw this woman in a blue hat. And then I looked at her and I was like, I think I know the woman in the blue hat. Oh, I definitely know the woman in the blue hat. And then I thought, it's Angela. And then I woke up. Because once again, my brain went, you just want it to be Angela, you twat. Like, you're ruining this whole thing by trying to drive the conversation. And so I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm apologizing to the hypnotherapist. I was like, I was on the boat. It was all so real. But then I saw what I thought was my great grandmother. And then I woke myself up because then I was overthinking. I think I imagined it was my great grandmother. And she was like, it's okay. It's okay. This was a great session. And we said goodbye. But as I was walking out of the therapist's office, like back to my car, I almost heard an audible voice in my head. The voice said to me on the way out, I was the one in the blue hat.
Oh.
Yeah. Thinking that it was Angela always makes me think that I'm making stuff up. I always worry that it's wishful thinking. And whenever I have that moment where I'm like, gosh darn it, this is just my imagination, she basically thwacks me. No, it is me. Like an Italian grandmother would.
Yep.
Yeah. So I love that.
Have you heard her voice before or since? Can you recognize
that was
the voice
the only
now?
time I heard the voice so clearly. It was so clear. It wasn't audible, but it was clear. That's what happens when I read tarot. I can hear whole sentences. It's not quite clairsentience. Clairsentience is having a feeling. But they talk about claircognizance, which is you just know something suddenly that you didn't know before. And you know that it just feels like an outside influence coming in. So it's something between claircognizance and clairaudience where it's a complete sentence. It's crisp and clear, but I didn't hear it in the room.
These aren't the only spooky experiences you've had. I know that you have also conducted some seances and paranormal investigations. You specifically mentioned a seance that you did in a house in Mississippi. I want to hear about that.
Oh, Becky, you know all my secrets. You want to hear about the mansion in Mississippi? That's
absolutely.
Yes. Okay. It's, oh my God. So I have the coolest friends, including you. So I have the coolest friends, this couple. So they're super awesome. They're not even Southern, but I like them anyway. No, that's not what I meant. But what I meant was they're not even from here, and they bought a mansion in the small town in Mississippi. I think they got this mansion for less than $100,000, even though it sleeps 18.
Oh my goodness.
Comfortably. Whoa. I'm not exaggerating when I use the word mansion. Like the staircase, we've told them before, it looks like the Titanic staircase. One of those mansions, okay? So it's really something. It's not antebellum, if you're familiar with the term antebellum, meaning before the war. It's postbellum. So it's like 1890s-ish, right?
So not as dark a history.
Yeah, I mean, nobody was enslaved at this mansion. I guess we could say that's the one. But that doesn't mean horrible things couldn't have happened.
Right.
So you've got this mansion that is the Georgian columns and the Titanic staircase and the whole deal. I mean, it's really grand. And they got it for a song because it was in terrible condition. And they renovated it beautifully. And so it's been brought back to its former glory. It's got beautiful stained glass and chandeliers. It is the shit, y'all. This is like the platonic ideal of Mississippi mansion. When you shut your eyes and picture it, that's exactly what I'm saying it is. So it's in the Mississippi Delta. It's a total party town. And if you know anything about like just culturally here, house parties are the thing. Because, I mean, juke joints died. There aren't that many bars and restaurants. I mean, especially since everything used to be dry and there's widespread poverty. So there's just not the restaurant and bar culture that you get in other parts of the U.S. It's house parties. And the house parties get crazy. And so I had been there for at least 2 house parties. And I think I was probably at the second or third one. And they're great. We have so much fun. It's not far from Memphis. It's a day's drive. And they have live musicians and everything, because everyone's a musician. You know, someone's playing the guitar. It's always so worth it. And so there we are at this party, and we're complimenting on like the renovation, and we're starting to ask questions like, oh my God, is this the original plaster? You know, stuff like that. And since we took interest, of course, he gave us the whole tour and he's answering all these things. He said to me, you know, you guys can stay here anytime. And I was like, I would love to stay in this mansion. Spooky little girl that I am. Have this whole mansion to myself. Because I'd only ever been in it when it was like hopping and music blaring and everything. And it's like you can't really feel the vibes of the ghosts when all us living people are being that noisy and insane. Like all the ghosts are like, I'm out. But I thought if I could come back alone or just with hubby or just with some girlfriends. And then I was like, no, that's the ticket right there is I need to bring my girlfriends. We need to have girls' night at the Mississippi Mansion. So I thought about which friends I was going to bring. And my friend Edna is the costume restorer at the clothing restorer at the Woodruff Fontaine House here in Memphis, which is a historic mansion. So she's like super into Victoriana anyway, super knowledgeable. Mm-hmm. And then my other friend, Sheena, literally gives the ghost tours here in Memphis. Sheena Barnett is a legend, and she's so fun and funny. You should interview her on this podcast, by the way. She was amazing.
Okay.
Give us her info.
Talk about someone with ghost stories. Dear God. Anyway, we walk into this mansion, and I'm going to tell you, it is so different when you walk into something. I mean, I know you know this, but I think I was not prepared for how different it was going to be to open the door myself to this big mansion that has all the lights off. Nobody's home. It's nighttime. I mean, we arrived after work because they both have day jobs. So, I mean, we didn't even get there until night. Went in the kitchen, made a gorgeous pasta meal. And after we were done with dinner, I guess I should just tell you my state of mind was always just to go to I wasn't thinking we were going to do a seance. You know, I wasn't thinking we were going to like actively try and interact with anything there. If we saw something cool, I did bring my cards, but it was because I had planned on reading for both Edna and Sheena. Girls trip, I'm always going to bring my cards. But I didn't bring anything else. Little did I know, these two had brought paranormal equipment and they were ready to go. And one of the features of this house, the dining room, has this very long table that has, I'm not exaggerating, 6 candelabras on it, I think. Whoa. At least 5. It's a very long table. And I've had dinner at this table during these parties. And, it seats like 16 people. It's very long. And then there's a long buffet counter on the other side, too. So you have like tons of this space. So when the 3 of us sit at one end of the table, it was like in a movie about royalty where the queen is at one end and the king is at the other. So we sit at one end and we light all the candelabras and we turn off all the electric lights. Oh, the effect was incredible. It was awesome. Each candelabra has 5 or 6 candles in it, right? It's old fashioned stick candelabra. So we have the candles on and we eat dinner. And after we finish our pasta dinner, Sheena's like, shall we get started? And I was like, started on what? And she was like, oh, well, of course we're going to do an investigation. And I was like, what? And so she had brought her notebook because she knew Edna had the other stuff. Edna had 2 things. Edna had this electric, like an EMF thing. You can get them in any hardware store. She didn't have expensive stuff that you see on TV, but she had this detector. And then when you set it against something, like imagine this is a lamp. Imagine my hand is a lamp and you set it up against the lamp. Nothing will happen if the lamp is turned off. But if you switch the lamp on and then put this EMF detector next to it, it'll detect the electricity in the lamp and it'll go zoop, zoop. The little arm on the dial will go all the way and show you how many amps, I guess. So she just set it right in the middle of the kitchen table. It's not going to pick anything up unless it does. Presumably a ghost can direct energy in a strong enough way that electromagnetic force will make the needle go up. All right. So we have that and we tested it. It's on, green light. And then we had on her phone, she had like a voice box app. And she was like, this app will pick up voices, presumably from the radio frequencies that are too high for us to hear. And then the ghost can talk to us. She turns this damn thing on. And I mean, it was already spewing all such a nonsense. And I'm like, you know what? I don't like this app. I'm going to be honest with you, Edna. I mean, I told you I'm a graphic designer, right? I've made apps. I'm imagining the developers who are feeding it with all kinds of preloaded phrases. Because honestly, the phrases that came out of it before we had even started, were just so Halloween-y. They were things like, do you believe in Satan? And I was like,
oh no.
I'm like, girl, this thing is so full of shit. Can we just go back? And it just kept on doing that, right? And so it was saying all kinds of bullshit, names and, I never loved her. And I was like, can you just, anyway, so that was stupid. But she had it and she was like, well, let's just try it, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, if we have it, we'll try it. So she turned it off for the time being. And then we centered and grounded and basically prepared ourselves for a spiritual experience, right? And so being the eldest, I decided I would lead. I said, if anyone is here, we would love to hear from you and hear your story as best we can, as best you can communicate with us. We will not welcome any negativity. We will not allow it. And all three of us have relatives who have passed. And I said that to the room. I said, we all have people who love us in your realm. And you will be shown the door if you give us any trouble. They are here with us. They love us. We have guardian angels. We have spirits. And you will not bring any negativity. We will shut this all down. So I started with that and then softened my tone and basically was like, if you have anything to tell us, we are listening. So Edna turns on the thing. We get quiet. We're listening. And a whole bunch of nonsense starts coming out again. I don't even remember what it said, but I was already rolling my eyes like, this is dumb. It's not working. So, but Sheena was in it. I didn't want to be out of it. I didn't want to be like in that past life regression where I ruined everything because of my imagination. So I was like, stay in it, Stacey. Don't overthink it. Right. And then it got really quiet. The app was still on because you could still hear the noise, the static, but it just wasn't talking at all. And we were like, And so then it said, you've been here before.
Well.
And the girls looked at me like, what? Stacey? They both looked at me and it said, you're not welcome. You've been here before. Go away.
What?
And I said, I have been here before. You are right. I was like, you know what? I need to have the right attitude. I'm going to go. If I don't interact with it, we're never going to get anything meaningful out of it. It hadn't yet occurred to me that the ghost, yes, maybe it is bullshit, but that doesn't mean that spirits can't take it over. Why can't both of these things be true? Why couldn't this have been invented by a couple of developers who thought it would be funny, but also get taken over? Like both, yes, right? So then I thought, okay, I got to have the right attitude. So finally I said, yes, I've been here before. I've been to parties. I've been invited by the owners. And furthermore, we were invited to be here by the living, by the current owners of the house. It got quiet. And then it said, this is the Bible Belt, which I thought was a really strangely modern thing to say, right?
Yeah.
Like we haven't been saying the Bible Belt forever, but this is the Bible Belt is also real specific. And before I could even respond to that, it said, people are scared of us, mystical, and witchcraft. I have Sheena's notes because Sheena took detailed notes. So I have them here so I could remember and tell you. So after we let it say those things and then it got quiet again and I, had a chance to respond. I was like, are you suggesting that we're practicing witchcraft? Do you feel that by talking with you, we're doing something mystical or we're doing something wrong? And it said more energy. Right when it said more energy, the candles flickered. I was like, wow, oh my God. So we shoot all of each other, all these looks. And then just as we were starting to notice the candle, the EMF thing started going too. So the needle, for the first time, after it said more energy, the candles and the needle went all the way up and back and all the way up and back. And then it said, you came back. So it's back to this whole thing about like you being here before, right? It said, I want you out. And that's when I got annoyed. I was like, listen, I'm not going to have this thing. We got to sleep here tonight. That's when I started thinking like, we are sleeping here tonight and I've done made up. And then my two girlfriends are looking at me like, you have pissed off a ghost.
Yeah.
It hates Stacey. Shit. And the looks on their faces were not happy. They're like, what the fuck are we going to do now? So I just turned into bossy mom. I am the mother of two. And I just went into bossy mom mode. I'm like, I'm not taking this smack. Especially since I had started the whole thing with, if you get negative, we're going to show you the door. I thought, well, I better grow a backbone right now because this thing has now said at least 10 times, go away, or you're not welcome, or you came back, or, some version of that. I just went this whole thing. I was like, we are here on invitation from the living, from the people who own this house today. You had your time here. we have our time here now, and you need to be nice. Or leave, or we'll just turn all this off and we won't listen to you anymore. I don't have to listen to this. And Edna was like, thumbs up, do that. Because while I was doing that, she was like thumbs up and pointing at the EMF thing, and it was still going, brr, brr, brr. You know, the needle was going up this whole time. It was incredible. So then you know what it said? I have the notes, right? It said, are we friends? And Sheena was talking to them too. And I remember Sheena was like, well, we're friends. Are you friends with us? Like the three of us are friends. Do you want to be our friend? Do you want to tell us stories? And it said two things, whole sentences, y'all. I mean you no harm. I don't mean to scare you.
Nice.
Aww.
That's when I am all in on this voice box now. I was like, this thing. Oh, and did I even mention she had put it on airplane mode? So like it's not connected to the internet. Because other fears I had would just be that maybe we were like live streaming and somebody could respond. Like I didn't know. But if the thing is on airplane mode, these are not automatic comments at this point. I knew from the depths of my soul that when it said we're in the Bible Belt, witchcraft, that it just didn't like how we were, right? We start a dialogue with it and then it just disappears. No more candle flicker, no more EMF thing flicking. And so we're like, it's gone. I think we lost it. Shoot. And then the thing says out of the blue, it just says, use a different method. And Sheena goes, Stacey, your cards. I was like, oh yeah. So I had brought 3 decks. All right. I had the Southern Gothic Oracle with the haunts shuffled in. So I had the monster cards. For those of you who don't know what that is, they're these scary cards that you can choose to have there or not. And then I had a deck by Erica Robinson called Erica's Lenormand of Hope. And then I had another one that's actually by Nancy Hendrickson, that is the Ancestral deck. And it's got images of archetypes and people all on it. So I thought, what if I drew 1 card from each deck? So I started talking to the spirits again. So I said, here's what we're going to do. I would like you to identify yourself. I have these 3 decks with lots and lots of pictures in them. I am going to shuffle all 3 of them. I want you to give me a feeling when you think I've shuffled them enough. And I'm just going to pull 1 card from each deck. And with those 3 cards, I would like you to tell us a story of who you are. Okay? Shuffle, 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 shuffle. It took a long time. So I have all 3 decks newly shuffled in front of me. And I pull the top card from each of the 3 decks. I'll pull from my own first. And it's the Candlelight Spirit, which is one of the haunts cards. And it's an image of a young enslaved girl. She's the ghost of a girl who was real, who died at the age of 14. So it's a very dark card. From Erica's deck, I turn it over and I pull this card that's called the Hero card. And I was like, oh, someone who thinks of themselves as a hero? Well, the image on that card is of Rosa Parks, the civil rights freedom fighter. Mm-hmm. Then from the 3rd deck, from Nancy's deck, I turn it over. And I think it was Nanny Burroughs. It was the teacher card. So I was like, they're a hero and a teacher and also maybe enslaved. And then it occurred to me, holy shit, all 3 of these cards are Black women. And when I saw it. And I was like, oh, you were a Black woman. And she said, the voice box said, Doreen.
Oh, you have earned my name.
I was like, you're a Black woman named Doreen. And the flickers and the EMF start going off again. Everything started flickering.
Whoa.
So we were like, okay, maybe we misunderstood. We know that this app spits out a lot of names, but we are going to call you Doreen from here on out, if that's okay with you, because we don't know your name. And Sheena is like rapidly writing notes. I know she's going to be all over the internet trying to find a Doreen that lived in this, in this house. So we were like, not to be disrespectful because we are 3 white women sitting here, but we know what times were like many years ago in this place. Did you work in this mansion? And everything went flicker, flicker, flicker as if to say yes. So we said, so you worked here. And then all of the words, I don't have the notes. I couldn't find the following page, but from my memory, everything she said after that had to do with it hurt. She was cruel to me, fell down, hospital. So we were getting these disjointed words about something bad happening where she either could or maybe even couldn't go to the hospital. We all know what happened to Bessie Smith. So maybe she needed to go to the hospital. Maybe she did go to the hospital. I don't know. But basically, she was trying to share with us that a trauma happened to her in this home and that she was employed by the former owners. And then she just disappeared. And then it just ended. We haven't been able to find any obituaries or anything, so we think that the name is probably wrong. And we're like, well, we call her Doreen. But I'm 100% sure that those messages were coming from an entity, a single entity that was giving very coherent answers to what it was witnessing. And, it was sentient. It was reacting to us.
Do you think it was the spirit currently known as Doreen who was speaking to you guys the entire time? Back when she was telling you've been here, get out?
Yes, because she at one point, I say she now because now we have this image in our heads of who she was. But at one point, the voice said, there are two of us. It was after the Doreen thing. So we knew. So we're like, okay, it's you, Doreen, and who else? And it said, she is 10 years old, Patricia.
Whoa.
So there may have been a little child ghost there as well who was witnessing all of this, little Patricia. But Patricia, we don't think Patricia talked to us at all. We never got anything that felt childlike. Things like the Bible Belt, I don't like you, get out. These are adult phrases. But I could picture like maybe the Patricia standing quietly in the corner watching all this go down because she's stuck in the house. I don't know.
Knowing what you know now, or what you picked up from the card reading about Doreen, did the part where she was telling you to get out make more sense or less sense after that?
I think it makes more sense. I mean, I have thought about that a lot, that if we have someone like that who's in the room and seeing us, picturing a stern black woman looking at us like, what do these three girls think they're doing? This is a bunch of witchcraft. Get the hell out. You know what I mean? Like, I know women like this. And I'm thinking like, this could be any one of my mom's friends being like, y'all doing a bunch of witchcraft. You need to get out. Like, Southern women don't like this. And if she is a Southern woman, first thing she does is says, I don't like what you're doing. It's mystical. This is the Bible Belt. Like, what you're doing is not Christian. I think that was that reaction. That's my interpretation anyway.
Then again, she did say people are scared of us right before saying witchcraft. Do you think that means she was like, hey, I've also dabbled in some mystical stuff and you'd better not do it here, let me tell you. People are scared of us.
Oh, Diana, I love that interpretation. That's interesting.
Maybe. Yeah, because that makes sense. Like, she was warning you, like, you better not talk about that around here.
Yeah, that's true. Because one thing I've heard is that ghosts don't have a sense of time. They may not understand, especially the children ones may not understand. They're saying, where's my mom? They don't understand that they died, or they don't understand things have changed. There's no sense of things turning over to a new reality. So yeah, that would actually really track, wouldn't it?
Well, that would also explain why she went from seeming very antagonistic to like, yeah, we're friends. We can be friends.
Are we friends? I mean you no harm. I loved the I mean you no harm. That was really, that was amazing. Awesome. And it was exactly what I'd probably say as a ghost if I had just run my mouth and been like, I'm sorry. I was rude to you a minute ago and now I feel bad.
Tell people where they can find your website and purchase your decks.
Oh, absolutely. It's a La Panthère Studio. So it's French for the Panther. So L-A and then Panther, but with an E at the end. So I'll spell it out. LAPANTHERE Studio. So La Panthère Studio.com. Yes. And you'll find a whole catalog of indie decks, because it's really important to me that we're not carrying any kind of mainstream tarot. You wouldn't come here to get a classic tarot deck. If you want that, go to Amazon. But we are carrying really authentic artist-made decks, also books to help people learn about on their journey towards mysticism and spirituality, alternative spirituality. So you'll find a lot of like Southern magic, Ozark magic, hoodoo magic in our books that are not published by us. We just carry those because they're such a great complement to the decks that we produce. But yeah, I hope to see y'all there. And we're also on, social media as La Panthère Studio.
You still will do a Kickstarter from time to time, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we're too broke to actually finance these decks. So we work really, really hard, because it costs about 10 grand a pop to produce one of these decks. And so we do Kickstarter crowdfunding campaigns in order to finance getting the deck made. And then everybody who pre-buys a deck using that method so that we can afford to send it to press, then their reward is a first edition deck. And sometimes like all kinds of other fun stuff like stickers and autographs and all that. So please follow us on those things too. And it's really fun to be a backer because then you get to sort of see one of these things get born.
Tell us of all the decks that you have created so far.
Yeah. I've done 4.
Yeah.
So I've done the Southern Gothic Oracle, and it's all about Southern folklore and magic. I've done the Southern Botanic Oracle, which is a companion deck to that, really, although it stands alone. If you're really into plants, Southerners have a very deep and complex relationship with plants, whether it's herbal healing or just, frilly decorations and landscaping. So some of the plants, they're all culturally significant, but some of them are in there because of landscape, like the magnolia tree. Mm-hmm. And some of them are in there because of like hoodoo, herbal, and root work remedies. So like High John the Conqueror. So it's a lot of different plants for a lot of different purposes. And then the third one was the cemetery deck. Oh man, we could do a whole thing on that. But it's using cemetery symbolism for oracle card symbolism.
And that deck comes in a coffin-shaped box, right?
It comes in a coffin-shaped box. And the cards are laid in a velvet bed. So it's like you open the coffin and they're... Yeah, I really love the packaging on that one. It's called Roses, Dust, and Ashes. And the fourth one that I just came out with is dropping September of 2024, so it'll be here any day, is the Rhythm and Soul Tarot, which is using the magic of music from the Mississippi Delta for tarot readings. It's my first tarot. And the 4 suits are the 4 foundational genres of American music. So it's blues, jazz, rock and roll, and country.
Awesome.
I absolutely love it. Yeah. I had a chance to preview that year at Mystic South. And
yes.
As a musician myself, I just started taking up the banjo this year, but I've been a bluegrass fiddler for over 40 years. And oh man, I love that deck.
Oh, I love that. My Knight of Pentacles is a bluegrass fiddler.
That is awesome. And all of these are available on your website. Tell people what your Instagram handle is again so people can follow you and find out about the Kickstarter.
I have 2 Instagrams. One is La Panthère Studio. That's a very matter-of-fact Instagram. It's like, here is the newest deck that we have if you want to buy and collect decks. But mine, if you want to follow more about Southern magic and like my decks and the kinds of things that I think about and see, that's Southern Gothic Oracle. So I focus a lot more on my own work there.
Hainted Loves, make sure you check that out. You will not be disappointed. This artwork is amazing.
Thank you so much. This was so fun. Thank you for letting me share all this.
And Hainted Loves, what do you think? Have you ever been in a haunted mansion in Mississippi reading oracle cards when a spirit tells you that people in the Bible Belt might not be so comfy with your readings? If so, it's a good way to have a spooky day.
Homespun Haints is hosted by Becky Kielimnik and Diana Doty, and produced by Homespun Haints Media LLC. Editing and music by Becky Kielimnik. Show notes by Diana Doty. If you have a ghost story and you'd like to be considered as a guest for this podcast, please visit our website at homespunhaints.com/submit.